Good evening, Otsabuna Ruiz, Otsabuna Hanan, everybody.
سلام
You have the slides on.
Good evening يا طنط ميري.
Good evening, Otsabuna.
لو سمحتوا ممكن تميوت المايكس بتاعتكم عشان نسمع صوت تصوني ميري، ولو حد عنده questions يبعتها ازاي؟ يبعتها يرفع ايده ويبعت question on the chat or how we are going to manage that?
Otsabuna, I will be monitoring the chat. So if anyone has any questions, I'll make sure to bring them forward to Tante Mary after each section.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. I was asked.
What is the slides, Amiri? The slides are on?
Yep.
I don't see it, but okay.
That's
Does everybody
it.
see the slide?
I can see it, yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, we
okay.
see it.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, slides are on. Yeah. Okay. I was asked by Otsabuna Ruiz to give an information sessions on awareness and prevention of children and youth sexual abuse. So why are we here today? We're here today to have some awareness on child sexual abuse. And our goal is to prevent this from happening. And we will learn some strategies and code of conducts and to discuss how to overcome some challenges. To start, I like to start with this verse. By whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be thrown in the depths of the sea. Matthew 18:6. There are two key words here in this verse, actually, that I like to emphasize on. Whoever, that means anybody. It could be an older brother, it could be a mother, it could be a father, it could be a grandfather, it could be a neighbor, it could be a teacher, any caregiver, whoever, anybody. And the second key word is causes. Causes means do harm. How is it harm? Because it says that to do this, cause the little one to sin. To sin, that means to do something wrong. So what's the consequence of that person is to be pushed into the sea. Not only pushed into the sea, there will be a great millstone fastened, that means be attached to their neck to make sure that they vanish completely, because the rock will be heavy and will pull him down the sea. So where to go from here? That sounds scary and horrible. So by the end of today's session, we will be able to define what is child sexual abuse. We'll be able to also list and explain the impact of sexual abuse on the adult life. We'll also identify some action youth can take to protect themselves and recognize some signs of sexual abused children. And as parents, we will be able to explain parents' role in protecting their children. Also define the church role and strategies toward children and caregivers. How are we going to do that? With this nice short agenda. So we have some definition. We have 8 points to discuss together. We're going to have some definition. Number 2, how to recognize if a child has been sexually abused. What are the effects of childhood sexual abuse on the person adulthood? How can a child or youth protect themselves from harassment or sexual abuse? How parents, like the parents' role in their children's life. How can the service provider protect themselves, him or herself? And what can the church do to be protected against any wrong allegation? And we will end up with some challenges and how to overcome them. Okay, so let me start with some definition. When I say awareness, what does the word awareness mean? To be aware of, to know, to recognize, to understand, Okay, and then to do what? What am I gonna do by me knowing? By me knowing and being aware, how will that help anything? And where will that lead me? The responsibility. It will lead me to be responsible. If I know, then I am responsible. If I don't know, then how do I know what to do? But now I know, I recognize there is an issue. Then I am responsible to take some action and do something about it. That's the second thing. Third thing, who is a child? When I say child sexual abuse, who is a child? Excuse me, who is a child? Now, anyone that is under 18, that is young youth. And that's why you will notice I write child/youth. Child/youth. That means young children, and the youth, that means under 18. They are considered children. And then we'll define, this is the main point, we'll define what is child sexual abuse, which is CSA, child sexual abuse. Now I put in between bracket topics versus issue. Now, is this CSC or child sexual abuse a topic or an issue? And what's the difference? What's the difference? Okay, I will speed up maybe because of the time. It is a topic, however, it is an issue. A topic means a topic, something that we can learn about and to be aware about. But an issue is an issue to deal with and prepare for it and be responsible about it. Okay? Now, what is child sexual abuse? It comes in two different activities, touching and non-touching. A child can be abused in two different ways. By touching, any form of touching a child's private parts for sexual pleasure is considered sexual abuse. Or making a child touch someone else's private part. Then it could be an older person, an uncle, and whoever. Making the child touch them is sexual abuse. Encouraging a child to play sexual game with them or with objects, holding an object and playing it, touching themselves, touching the other, considering it and playing it like a symbol of a sexual part. All that is called child sexual abuse. Hugging and kissing for the sexual purpose. There is a hugging and there is a kissing, but for sexual purpose, you can tell how the person hugs the child. And we'll talk about that. Okay, this is a non-touching activities. This is viewing child abuse images is participating in child abuse. When you, for example, are passing by, you see a youth or somebody, an adult, a friend, a teacher, any caregiver watching or on his phone, on his device watching, or some pictures about child abuse images or child porn or child private parts is participating in child abuse. Also asking a child to stay naked. Oh, you look cute that way. Stay a little bit. It's warm outside. That's child abuse. Because we're giving them the wrong messages, the wrong impression about their body. So gotta be very careful. Showing porn to a child. This is non-touching again. Exposing an adult's private parts to a child in public. Exhibitionistic. Exhibitionistic. I'm going to pause here. Disorder. D means disorder. This is a sort of paraphilic and voyeurism and the whole thing. Let me explain an incident that happened actually with me. Over 10 years ago, before Jolene, my daughter, got married, we were at Southgate Shopping Mall. So we were going to the car in a parking lot. And guess what we saw? In a parking lot, my car was parked this way and another car, and in front of us, he was laying down on the floor between the cars, completely naked, and doing some awful stuff. That's called exhibitionistic. Yeah. The other thing, encouraging a child to watch or hear sexual act, or taking picture of a child private parts. All this is called child sexual abuse. Now, one thing that is very important to remember, that child sexual abuse is a criminal offense. Criminal offense, that means the consequence is from 5 years to lifetime in prison. And it depends on the severity and the type of abuse. 5 years to lifetime. All right. Now, how can we recognize if a child has been sexually abused? We see children playing, they're having fun, they are innocent, playing with their friends, their cousins, their neighbors, and nothing wrong with them. How can you say the child been abused? Well, it's also important to know that often children don't talk for lots of reasons. They could be shy, afraid, have been told that nobody will believe them, or they can be threatened by their abuser or even bribed. I'm going to give you some candy, I'm going to give you whatever toy, I'm going to give you this and that, and tempt them. So it's very hard to know. But there are signs that can tell us that that child been abused. Some physical signs and some behavioral signs. The physical signs, of course, the STD, sexual transmitted disease, and that will happen when they go to more medical tests and stuff like that. Some bleeding, especially girls and boys too. Genital and anal bruising and soreness. When the child has pain, going to the washroom, has pain sitting down, and uncomfortable feelings. The other thing, regression. Regression, that means regress, that means goes back, down. That means if the child is 6 years old, they act like a 3 years old, and they start wetting their bed, sucking their thumb, behaving like little ones. Health problems, stomach ache, and headaches as well. Those are physical signs. It doesn't mean when this happens, then there is problems. No. When we diagnose something, like any physical, any medical, we need to have more than one symptom, and not to be to freak out or to be paranoid about, oh, the child is doing this, the child is behaving that way, the child is feeling that way, they must be abused. No, I'm keeping my eye on my child. I need to know more symptoms. Now, behavior signs, this is what we can observe on the child. Knowledge and talk about sexual talk. Sexual fixation, that means they focus. Fixation here, not fixation on a certain stage of their life, but this fixation that focused on any picture, and they look at the private part of it. If they have a pet, they talk about it. They draw an animal and they stick some of the private part in a certain way. So you know that their mind has been changing. You know that there are some messages, some confusion in their mind. They were exposed to something unusual. The other thing, unusual, keeping secrets. You know your child, whether you're the parent or you're the teacher, you find that, oh, what's happening? Why are you quiet? Nothing. Okay, what do you have here? What, show me your book. And nothing. That's okay. Unusual is the keyword. Something unusual behavior. Also not wanting to be left alone, especially with that person, the abuser. They know, oh, uncle is coming, and they cry, or they go into the room and they try to hide, and so on. They don't like to be left alone. So this is a huge sign, actually. Also, inappropriate sexual behavior for a child's age. If the child is 4 years old and behaving touching his siblings, touching himself in a certain way, or even masturbating and talking about his private part and so on. Also, and this is what we use, the next point, this is what we use in play therapy to know what's happening with the child. Imitation of sexual acts with the toys or stuffed animals. When I need to know what happened to the child, I give them a stuffed animal. And I ask them the question, and they start pointing, and they start explaining, and they start playing with the toy, just like how their abuser did to them. They do it to the toy. And of course, they spend unusual time all alone, and sudden change in their behavior. Sudden, that means that they go from extreme to another, aggressiveness or withdrawal, difficulty sleeping, and lots of nightmares. Okay. Some emotional signs here. Of course, change in mood. Sometimes happy, sometimes angry, sometimes crying, sometimes anxious, afraid, lots of nightmares, and lots of appetite, lots of interest in school. Let's go to school, let's finish our homework. No, who cares? You hear certain terms that they practice. No, أنا ماليش نفس, I don't feel like it, I'm not in the mood, and so on. So we need to find out about all those behavior and those feelings, lots of emotions, because they be feeling guilty, fear, shame, self-blame, and they start self-harming. Self-harming, I have lots of use that the cutters, they cut their skin. This is very, very, very famous, unfortunately. And now some of them go for counseling, and some of them, they get caught at school and they ask, so they do that in hidden part of their body, but they cut a lot. Children can be depressed, yes, and they express their depression and stress through hyperactivity, through anger, through crying, through rebelling, and so on. Okay. Is there any question in that part?
Yes, Tante Mary, I do have one question that was sent to me in the chat. And the question is, if it's from child to child, both below the age of 18, would that be considered abuse as well?
Same age needs to be watched. Yeah, needs to be watched. It is considered abuse, but a different type of abuse, not pedophilic. It's not like from an adult to a child. The two youths need to be redirected, and they need to learn, and parents need to be involved. It is considered, of course, abuse, and it's a case in front of the authority. It is a case. We've been through that. I happened to teach before the counseling, and I happened to teach in one of the schools, and this had happened between two children in grade 3, and it was a huge issue, and child welfare got involved, and a big allegation happened. So, and it is considered like abuse because children need to be supervised. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So how is, when we are talking about child abuse and we're talking about certain stage of their life, the under 18, now they grow up, they become adults. They are 30 years old, they are 40 years old, and so on. And I would say, okay, they were young and they were children, they were innocent. Whatever happened at this time, at this early age, must be forgotten, because they are innocent and they forget really easily and fast. Is that true? How true is this? It is not true, it's a myth. Lots of people think that way. Whatever the child goes through in childhood, whether physical abuse and especially sexual abuse, is called trauma. And whatever a person goes through a trauma, it stays in that with them forever until adulthood. Lots of cases in counseling with depression, suicide case, anxiety cases, bipolar cases, and on and on and on, because they went through childhood trauma. So is there any effect from childhood sexual abuse on the adult well-being? Yes. And actually, there are some factors to consider about the trauma. And when a trauma happens, the severity of the trauma, whether the child being, or severity here was like trauma is an experience with the person think and feel that they will die. See, it threatens their life. So was the abuser using some weapon to threaten them? Was the abuser torturing them? And so on. So there are severity in this. How many of them, one or two people, and so on. This is one thing, the severity. The other thing, the age when the trauma occurred. The younger the age, the severe the trauma is. And how close was the abuser to the family? Family member, friend, neighbor, a stranger. When they are family, when they are close to the family or to the child, this is when the pain and the agony is. And when the child tells his parents about what happened, how did the parent or the person trusted or believe or even listened? I have an adult person that said every time, she's over 35, and many of them, they say, okay, I went to my mom and I told her, and she said, be quiet and go to your room. Never talk about this anymore. It's all about hush hush. It's all about it's your fault. So that gives the impression to the child that it is their fault. Now, what kind of effect of that childhood sexual abuse affect the adult life? Let's see together. There is a psychological effect, marital relationship crisis and dysfunction, because there is no, when the self-esteem is harmed, it interferes in the relationship. When one of the side of the partner, when one of the husband or the wife don't feel good about themselves, they're not gonna interact good with the other. This is one thing, psychologically. Eating and sleeping disorder, low confidence, trouble at work, keep on changing work because they don't feel good about them. They don't feel that they can make it. They don't feel that they are capable. Of course, lots of depression, and depression lead most of the time to suicide. Flashback. Flashback comes from what? From triggers. What kind of triggers, and what does trigger mean? A smell can be a trigger. A smell of food, a smell of perfume, a view, a sight, a word, a song, a story, anything can be a trigger for flashback. Flashback, that means that the person start to remember all the abuse and what had happened. Of course, again, harmed self-esteem. Who am I? I am not worth anything. I'm not a good person. I don't feel good about myself. Distorted self-perception, and they believe that they caused it and they deserve it, especially with that example when the mom told her, go to your room. We don't talk about such things. It's your fault. Why did you go to him or her? That's the psychological effect. The physical effect, self-neglect. The person does not really care about how they present themselves. Oh, who cares about me? It's like losing hope. Who cares about me? I'm okay. Their personal body hygiene, how they dress, how they comb their hair, and so on. So self-neglect. chronic pain and abdominal lower back pains. They always and often happens. An eating disorder, either severely obese or anorexic. And again, I'm not saying whoever is, big or skinny, that means they've been sexually abused. No, we need to know what happens first, and we need to have more than one symptoms. Lack of physical activities. Of course, they go to their crutches, drug and alcohol abuse, and being permissive and being submissive and being promiscuous, and so on and on and on and on. Now, sexual effect. What kind of sexual effect? This is very, very important to keep in mind. When I say sexual desire or arousal, is associated with sexual violation and pain. So two things we understand from this. Every time, like when the person grows up and become an adult and get into a relationship, and they start performing sexual intimacy or sexual relationship, always either associated with pain, so they don't like it, or they have to be in pain in order for them to enjoy the sexual act or activity or intercourse. They have to go through pain. I have lots of people that say, oh, I have to put whatever that is spicy and hot so I can feel that I'm really enjoying this, which is really disgusting, really make you shiver. It's a horrible thing to hear. But because she was harmfully sexually abused when she was a child, and nothing can satisfy her or enjoy her unless she feels the pain. Also, another thing, multiple partners and extramarital affairs. Multiple partners, they go with one and two, and I have, well, we always hear about being with 10 people. I slept with 20 people and being promiscuous. So there is no limitation with that. Let's go. And of course, there are lots in that sexually transmitted disease or infection, and they engage in risky sexual activities. Emotionally, they have fear and shame, lots of self-humiliation. They feel guilty, they blame themselves, lots, like I said, anxiety and depression, interpersonal problem, tendency to be victimized. Anything, any challenge they encounter, and they don't succeed in, they victimize themselves over and over. And I had the other day, I was talking with someone and they said, well, with COVID, staying at home, I felt the same time when I was depressed because of such and such, when such and such happened. And poor me, nothing will be good in my life. So they tend to victimize and re-victimize themselves over and over. And they do hang out with the wrong crowd. So they feel worthless, they feel helpless, they feel hopeless, and they mistrust. This is number one in marriage and relationships. There is mistrust when a person goes through that trauma. Okay, any question in that part?
No, Tante Mary, I didn't receive any questions.
Okay. So let's move on. Now, we talked about child abuse and the effect of it on their adulthood, but how can a child or youth protect him and herself from being sexually abused? What do you think? What can they do? How can we help them as children? By learning. Education is number one. Learning about body parts early as possible. And we've taken that as CSET, Christian Sexual Education Team. when I put those between brackets, that means all this been taught to the children and the students in Sunday school from grade 1 up to 12. Learning early as possible. How do I know that 1-year-old knows what I'm telling them? Of course, I'm not going to teach a 1-year-old as I'm teaching a 5 years old. We teach them according to their developmental age. So how do I know that the 1-year-old can understand me? Now, we notice the 1-year-old when they start walking and touching a plant or a vase. First time, you're going to scold them and say, well, don't touch it. Although it's okay to teach them how it feels. But anyways, that's a different issue. When you tell them don't touch it or stop, the second time when they go to the same plant or the vase, what happens? They look at you. That means, I'm doing something here. So that means they know the right from wrong. And this is when I need to start teaching them. A 1-year-old sit like this and pull their skirt and excuse me and privacy and so on. The other thing, some body parts are private. And we taught them that at Christian sexual education as well. So I'm gonna really speed up here. And important to teach them about boundaries. I'm gonna touch a little bit more on this one later and teach them assertiveness. Assertiveness, not to be aggressive, but to be polite and how to say, don't touch me. We'll get to that again. Trusting and respecting their instinct. If I see that there is something weird here, something wrong, then it is wrong. Then I need to do something and I'll be safety smart. Then I need to run. So not to hesitate to protect themselves. This is what we need to teach them and make them aware of so they have the courage to express themselves. This is number one, by teaching them and learning. Also learning self-defense. And they can start at 3 years old. And it depends on the types of fighting style and so on, and more as they get older. And that goes for boys and girls. Also teach them problem solving and decision making, which we taught them at the Christian sexual education. Okay. Now, how to react for the child? How can a child react when they've been threatened? Okay, not to sit passively. They have to yell loudly, start kicking, banging the door, look around for another door to escape. Tell them, for example, my mom is waiting for me here and I need to go to get something from home. I need to go to, you know, be aware of their daily surrounding, wherever they are. So that will decrease the risk of being targeted. Okay. Now, I have some case studies. Can you all see the cases? Yes, no?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Now, let me read it. It is recess time. Josh just turned 10 years old, playing with his friends. All of a sudden, Randy, an older student in grade 11, asked him to play soccer with him. He kicked the ball to the far corner of the playground, where there was a shed open. All the kids ran after the ball. Randy went inside the shed and called Josh to get in and grab the ball. Josh followed him in, but his friends stood by the shed door watching Randy aggressively pushing Josh to the corner and pulling his clothes off. Noticing the children gathering at the shed door, Randy stopped and Josh managed to run. Now, what do you see happening here? Now, Josh managed to escape, but what did he need to know when Randy asked him to get inside the shed? what needs to be done with Randy's behavior? What would you teach the bystander? Bystanders, those are the friends that stood by the door, by the shed door in this case. And how would you help Josh afterwards? So you have 4 minutes.
Mary, do you want to have the video and the audio on so we can have an open discussion, or what would you like to do?
Yes, sure, that would be great, especially for the cases. Yeah.
Oh, just tell them, whatever you
Pierre,
want.
yeah. Pierre, can you ask them to unmute themselves so we can discuss together, please? I don't know how that
Sure,
works.
I'll send the message.
Okay, thank you.
But if anyone has a comment or anything, please turn on your video and unmute so we can discuss.
Yeah.
And I have a comment, Mary.
أيوة.
That happened between 10 and 11 years old. Although it is considered a child abuse,
Yeah.
but what is the legal implication or the legal accountability pertaining this to children?
That's grade 11.
Oh, grade 11.
Yeah. So
Grade 11.
Yeah.
And the other is 10 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
Grade 11 is 17 years old, right?
17, around 17, 18, and that's why they call it, when there is that age gap, 4 or 5 years between them, it's called pedophilia. Yeah. At whatever age.
Okay, so this is pedophilia.
Yeah.
Even if they both under the age, right?
Yes. Yes. It will be kept in the records. I have one couldn't go to some academy here because he did something similar like this when he was 17. So stayed in his record until now at the police. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have put the other person age. I put grade 11, sorry. Yeah.
But this is good, so we should read it thoroughly.
Yeah, yeah, sorry. Okay. So are we ready or do we need more time? What are your thoughts on this? I need your input, guys. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Are we supposed to discuss it or like choose like an answer between choices?
Well, we need to discuss those questions, and if you have more thoughts, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think Josh should have asked Randy, why do you want me to go in there? I mean, if he has this critical thinking and trained to understand what he's doing and why all the time, not just be obedient, blindly obedient,
Mhm.
Like again, it's how is Josh raised? Like to listen also always to the elders, or just have a better understanding with the listening, because this critical mind of thinking, why do you want me to go there? What do you want to, what are we going to do in there? What's the plan? Like have
Mhm.
this, like even my son, like as young as grade 2, he always asks what's going to happen. So
Mhm.
if I don't entertain the thought and feed him with what's going to happen, he's going to be trained to accept what's going on around him without asking what's going to happen next. I don't know. I could be wrong. That's just my thought.
Okay, why could you be wrong? You have your a very valid point. So what do you mean by that? So what's your point?
Like if Josh was raised in a way that allow him
Uh-huh.
to ask questions and be welcomed with
Yes.
questions and fed with a proper answer without being mocked or
Mhm.
just shush and you're not allowed to ask, or with
Yeah.
elders and elders know best.
Okay, so we need to teach Josh to be aware and to be assertive and to express himself and to be cognizant that something bad might happen, and get him to ask for the reason. Why do I have to go there? Why did you throw this? Or other than that, without asking, the other guy is running and he's bigger and older and is running all the way after the ball and getting Josh to run after him. What if he cannot ask him? What can he do? To recognize that this is danger, where he's taking him, to immediately recognize there is a shed there and this far away, the other corner of the backyard. That means it means it's a red flag, sign of something wrong, right? Okay. And what did he need to know when Ranji? Okay, what needs to be done with Ranji's behavior now? What kind of consequences? How can we handle that older guy's behavior?
I think it should take يعني an assertive action, whether to meet with him and warn him that that could be informed to a legal authority, talk to his parent if he's still underage. And I think it should take the legal part rather than only the disciplinary part.
Yes, exactly, Otsabuna. Especially, he was pulling the younger one's clothes off. وكان في bystander واقفين لولاهم يعني if they were not there, it would have made harm to the younger one. So I would go there and make sure, number one, that Josh is okay and calm him down. This is after the fact, of course, when I know. I have to listen to the little one, to Josh. Embrace his feelings, not embrace him, that means physically, no. Accept his feelings, validate his feelings, support his feelings, comfort him, and tell him it's not your fault, because he will be really distressed. And then report the case immediately to the supervisor. And in this case, it's more than just sexual move or a word or a verbal abuse or something. It's more than that. He was pulling that, cornering him, aggressively pushing him to the corner, and so on. So it's very important to file an incident report. Incident report, to go to the leader of the organization, the church or the school, and so on. And parents need to be informed. The youth need to sign, parent need to sign, the leader need to sign. And for the leader to free themselves and to cover themselves, needs to call authority, especially because of the pulling the clothes. And if they don't do that, the bystander or the children in the investigation will tell on them, and they will go back to the leader. The children saw that, the children told you such and such happened. What did you do about it? You gotta file an incident report and to be with the leader and call the authority immediately in this situation. immediately to cover yourself. And bystander need to learn and be aware to do something. They have a role, not to stand passively, to watch. Go run, call a teacher, call an adult, call somebody, and more than one person. Yeah, and there has to be supervision to supervise the children. This is another issue too. All right. Okay, any question in that case?
Sure, I have a question.
Yes.
In such instances,
Yep.
and if this, okay, grade 11, this is his first time, do you think it warrants giving him a warning, or should we jump to immediate action to call the authorities and take stronger action from the first time? What do you think?
Well, because of the nature of what he did, of his action, and has to take immediate legal action.
Okay.
And
Thank
that will shake the teen. But for him to do that, that means he knows a lot about this. And it's time to shake him. It's time to put him straight.
Shake
Okay.
him and shake everybody else.
Everybody else, and the teachers around, everybody. Okay, now here's another case. Rihanna is, sorry, I need to read this. 6 years old girl, 6 or 8, I can say. She went to visit her 28 years old uncle with her parents and siblings. This is a very important case. The uncle seems to favor her. He prepares some treats for her when she visits him, and he likes to have her on his lap. Upon their arrival, the uncle welcomed her and took her in his lap, on his lap, holding her tight to his body. He started kissing her neck from behind. Rihanna, on her uncle's lap, seems annoyed, looks at his face, and tries kicking him with her elbows. Rihanna, on his lap, she was trying to kick him to get out, to run, to get off him, get off his lap. But he pulls her tighter towards him. Parents sitting in the same room, noticing her kicking the uncle with an annoyed body gesture, they told her, "Sit nicely on your uncle's lap, Rihanna. He loves you." Whoa. What do you see happening? Parents being really oblivious. What do they need to be aware of? What do they need to read from the uncle action? And their daughter body language and gesture? What do they need to do? And what does Rihanna need to learn and do? How can you help Rihanna afterwards? You have 4 minutes. You're almost done. We ready to discuss it?
I have a comment, Mary. I think it's very important to teach the parents how to recognize their children body language.
Mhm.
This is an area that I think it is lacking,
Mhm.
and most parents ignore that body language, which can be a big issue.
Yeah,
So
that's
especially this kind of thing, and
Mhm.
even when they come from school, you need to watch your child as they come from school. How do they react? How do they behave? How do they feel? And so on. This is an area that we really need to inform the parents.
yes, yes. It's so obvious in this situation, this
Yeah,
case.
this is just
So obvious.
terrible.
They are very oblivious and in a different world. All
Yeah.
they care is about a family reputation. Uh, I don't know what was going on in their mind. Like they cannot think of the child's safety. And we'll talk about those challenges after. Yeah. Okay, so are we ready? Let's discuss this case. What do you think? Well, I guess Uncle Sammy answered the part of parents. What do they need to be aware of? And reading the uncle action and their daughter's body language. She seemed annoyed. She seemed uncomfortable. And he keeps on pulling her tighter to his body. Yeah. And the other sign was what in the case? Used to favor her, to prepare some candy for her, some treat for her, and show that he loves her. Yeah. And with some family, it's like, oh, the uncle is holding her on her lap. Well, holding the child on the lap, it depends who is holding them on the lap. And when the child is 5, 6 years old, this is not appropriate, and it depends if they favor that and all the time a repeated action. This needs to be considered. This need to be kind of think about it. What's happening here. Think about the repetitive wrong action. Okay. So anybody thought?
I have another comment.
Yeah.
We need to also educate the parents how to deal with their kids, because even if the parents, like, kids don't know the difference. So if the parents take the kid on his lap or her lap, like I remember I went to somebody's family and the kids came and just came too much tight to me and I pushed them away. They come back.
Yeah.
So obviously that's how they are treated in their family.
Yeah.
So we as parents, we can be causing all those issues by our ignorance. If you start holding your kids to your tight, which is fine as a parent or as a mother or as a father, and then this means that it's okay. Then I go there and then they come very tight to me. I just push them back. They come back. So push them back. I close my legs and I sit. So again, if they don't feel or if they feel bad, that's their problem. So we need to know as parents that we need to teach our kids how to behave in those issues. I think this is another major issue.
Yeah. Because children are innocent. Children love to be loved. They love to feel loved, and they go hug anybody, especially when they feel comfortable with. Yeah. And they like to kind of embrace them from their legs and so on, so they get hooked to an adult and somebody that they love. But we need to teach them to be aware of, okay, so you have to be space, you have to be respect, and
Sure, when
it's
they
nice to do that,
grow up, like
especially when they get
5,
older.
7 years old, when
Yeah.
they are toddlers, kids is okay. But when
Mhm.
they start getting to that age, you cannot hold my leg or your dad's leg, or oh, his dad. But that's, we need to, you know, keep our eye on our kids. Very important.
Yes. For younger children, parent responsibility to keep their eyes on their children when they do that. For older children, start teaching them how to respect distance and not to kind of throw themselves and start hugging anybody, everybody.
Setting boundaries and
Especially
so on.
setting boundaries, especially boundaries about their body and what we teach them to do. Okay, should we move on, or would you like a 10 minutes break?
ماري انا عندي سؤال.
Yes. سهير ازيك يا سهير؟
ايوه. In the two incident, like
Yes.
Randy chose Josh.
Yes.
And the uncle chose one of the sibling. If there is any indication from the abuser or from the abusive, the girl or the boy, shows that they are susceptible to that, or they want to do that, or they like to do that. That's why they choose them, because he left all the team and he grabbed this one only. Did he see something on it?
That's a good
Something
question.
happening there?
That's a very good question. Sometimes they choose the vulnerable, the quiet, the calm child. It's just exactly like bullying, especially children, older children in school, when there is younger children there, bully. But for like an uncle and so on, no, the child is quiet and submissive and simple and innocent, so they take advantage of that, unfortunately. Yeah, and they start bribing them, they start tempting them with toys, and the children
Maybe they check the
children believe. Yeah. Children are
that
innocent.
makes sense, because they don't want anyone. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so any other question, any other thought? Okay, would you like to stretch?
I'm sorry. I think one thing is not, especially in case study number 2, it's not about the action sitting on the lap. It can be innocent, it can be not.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's more about the uncomfort that comes with it and the annoyance that comes with it.
Yes.
And it is something that we need to teach our children, is whenever you're not comfortable or annoyed, it's your right to leave that situation or say something about that situation.
Exactly.
So it's not about the action, it's about the uncomfortable feeling and the annoyance that comes with it.
Yeah. So what did she need to do? What did Rihanna need
so
to do?
So if a 6-year-old is respected all the time, that this is not a comfortable situation for her, and she's used to leave that uncomfortable situation. Like if my daughter is sitting on my lap for too long and she's uncomfortable because it's hot inside or something, I'll let her go. So if she's used to that kind of behavior, she knows that even if an uncle is doing an innocent thing by putting her on the lap, not intending something necessarily wrong, but if I'm uncomfortable in that situation, though it's it might not be wrong totally, if I'm annoyed with that, I'm entitled to leave. And she raised that way. I think that's a good way of raising your kids.
If she's uncomfortable, she has to be assertive and say, excuse me, uncle, I need to sit down. I need to go to my room. I need to go play with my brother or sister. Sorry, I don't like this. It's okay to say, I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. And if she gets the support from her parents all the time on those kind of small decisions, that will raise that in her,
Yeah.
like by nature.
So parents really need to learn. If parents don't know and they cannot learn it, let's teach the daughter to be assertive, especially when it comes to family matter, family issues. This is so sensitive, and lots of people they like to hide it, and it's always hush hush, and it's rather unlikely to say anything about your uncle, and it's not good, and don't you dare, and the whole thing. So parents need to learn to back their children up. Yeah, to prepare them.
Even if the situation is not as clear as this one, some situation it might be this or might be that, but you need to back up their comfort level first.
Yes. Yes.
Not necessarily point fingers, but at least respect their comfort level and body language.
Yes, exactly. So they have a lot to learn. Those parents, a lot to learn, and we need to comfort Rihanna afterwards, right? And we need to listen to her. You didn't seem okay. What was happening? Tell me. How did you feel? Okay, then what did you want to tell him? Okay, what stopped you from telling him that you don't like that you don't feel comfortable? You see, to encourage her to talk, to encourage her to express herself, so the parents can learn a lesson from there and can get the message right and clear.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.